excited about the new expanded college football playoffs going to 12 teams next year. And the reasoning that everybody has for why the 12-team college football playoffs is going to be good for the sport is because it's going to create more parity. And let me give you guys a news flash. It's not. The only thing the 12-team playoffs is going to be is the Big Ten SEC Invitational. And with Oregon, Washington, and USC and UCLA joining the Big Ten, that's probably going to be even more true. And you look at the SEC, same thing's going to happen. And you people already talk about how the committee has SEC bias and how the committee always jerks off the SEC. Well, you think they're not going to get an even more easier path to the playoffs now that they can lose 2, maybe 3 games and still get in? Like Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, Ryan Day, Jim Harbaugh, they're laughing, and deep down inside, they're happy that the college football playoffs got expanded because all you did was guarantee those guys a spot at the table. Now, it's more pressure on them it's less pressure on them to win games now because they can lose 2 games and still get in because they're ranked in the top 10. You know, I watched a Florida team lose to a JV LSU team with Marco Wilson throwing the shoe that costed the Gators that game ultimately, and they only got knocked down, 1 or 2 spots? They could have beaten Alabama in the SEC championship game that year. I believe that was 2012, and they could have had a legitimate argument to get into the college football playoffs with the losses that they had and losing to a JV LSU team. And you mean to tell me that you think a 12-team college football playoff is going to create more parity? No, well, the G5 schools get a shot. And some of the schools that didn't have a chance now are going to get a chance, and it's going to be a lot like March Madness. College football is not anything like March Madness. It's a completely different sport. Yes, we do get a good amount of upsets in college football, but you got to look at the context of how those upsets occur. Majority of upsets occur where you have an underdog team hosting a team that's a favorite, but the underdog team has home field advantage. LSU, they beat Alabama last year where? At home. Same thing when you think about some of the upsets that took place last year in the Pac-12. The Pac-12 had a lot of good teams, but the conference, with the way that it's structured, all those good teams had to end up playing each other. So they ended up beating up on one another. You give teams like Alabama and LSU and Georgia added opportunity to get into this thing by expanding it, they're doing nothing but laughing at you because now you all but did anything but guarantee that they're going to have opportunity to win a championship every single year. You could have a 3-loss Alabama team in the college football playoffs that could be the last seed and could win it all. There's not a chance that you're going to find too many G5 schools that are going to be as good as what UCF and Boise State were when people were making the argument for why those teams should be included and, you know, the playoff picture or making it to the national championship in Boise State's case with the BCS era. You see, these G5 schools, the difference between them and the Alabamas of the world are athleticism, speed, and talent. And for those of you guys who say recruiting rankings don't matter, I want you guys to tell me the teams that have had some of the top 5 recruiting classes over the last couple of years, and tell me the teams that have been in the college football playoffs and the teams that have been in the national championship game. You will find out mysteriously that the teams that normally have the best recruiting classes normally make it to the college football playoffs. Alabama has had either the best or second best recruiting class in college football every year since 2018? And where have they been? Georgia, same way. Ohio State, same way. At the end of the day, expanding the college football playoffs does nothing but make it easier for these blue blood programs that already are dominating the sport. So the mindset and the philosophy that people are going about the expanded football playoffs is a little bit odd to me, because the way you think this thing is going to play out is going to be completely opposite from what you have in your head. You're thinking that Alabama's going to have a chance of getting upset by Tulane. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. And you can say, JT, you don't know that. Trust me, as long as Nick Saban lives and breathes and he's coaching Alabama football, I strongly doubt Tulane is going to upset Alabama, fam. Alabama is not USC. This is Alabama. Georgia is not going to get upset by Tulane. You saw what happened when we got our Cinderella story in the national championship. TCU was that big Cinderella that everybody was looking for. They got into the playoffs despite losing the Big 12 championship game. And yeah, they did upset Michigan. They did show that they deserved to be in there. But then they got mollywopped by Georgia. Doesn't that all but do anything but reinforce my point? You see, how often do you see a team like UCF knock off of Alabama when you have a great G5 school playing at their peak? Even when Cincinnati, before they went into the college football playoffs, when they had lost to Georgia in that New Year's Six bowl game. Yes, it was a close game, but they still lost that game, and Georgia was out, multiple starters. So it's like a 12-team playoff, the idea sounds good. You know, it sounds good that you get to add more teams because the opportunity for the potential upsets increases when you add more teams, and you get more teams that haven't been into the college football playoffs before, that are really talented, that are now going to have an opportunity. But at the end of the day, the teams that recruit the best, the teams that are more talented, are still going to rise to the top. Now, there may be a couple of years where occasionally there may be a team that is an underdog and they surprise people, but that's rarely going to happen. And I say that with strong conviction. You see, a lot of people want to make it seem like recruiting rankings don't matter, stars don't matter, but the majority of first-round picks are 5 and 4 stars. The statistics show you everything you need to know. The reason why more 3-star guys and lesser-ranked guys get drafted in 4 and 5 stars is because not everybody is a 4 and 5 star. Being a 5 and 4 star is very rare. It's not a club for everybody. It's an exclusive club. You got to get invited to it. And if you're not a 5 or 4 star, majority of the guys are 3 stars and 2-star guys or less. And the reason why is because either they don't have the same size or athleticism. There are a reason why certain guys are 5-star guys and 4-star guys. And you look at the 12-team college football playoffs, it's nothing but the Big Ten SEC Invitational waiting to happen. You thought that the committee was already biased towards Alabama when they have 4 teams? Now, look at how biased the committee is going to get when Alabama has 3 losses and they're still in the 12-team college football playoffs, and they get thrown in over a team that had maybe 1 loss. And then you're going to say, oh, we need to expand the 12-team college football playoffs to 32 teams. And all you're going to do is make it even more easier. And a lot of you people disagree with Josh Pate's, thinking on this, but I think he's actually right. You see, if the committee already struggles to drop SEC teams in the college football playoff rankings when they lose, then what do you think is going to change with them having the opportunity to put more of them in, more Big Ten teams in? Like, this isn't going to be one of those situations where, everybody has a slice of the pie. Now it's going to be a level playing field. You guys said the same thing about this when the transfer portal ended up becoming what it was. The transfer portal is going to help even things up because now you can lose some talented players and pick them up, and you could build a team through the portal that's just as good as Alabama. And what has happened? Alabama, Georgia, and some of the powerhouse schools in college football have used the transfer portal to their advantage. Y'all said the same thing about NIL. NIL is going to bring more parity to the sport because now Alabama and Tennessee and all of these other big-name SEC schools aren't the only schools that can pay players anymore. And what has Alabama done? They have used that to their advantage. You guys keep overlooking this. Everything that you guys think is going to be a disadvantage towards the schools like Bama, Ohio State, and Georgia, they use as an advantage. The 12-team college football playoffs is nothing different. You guys had this same tune about NIL and the transfer portal, and you got this same tune about the college football playoffs creating more parity. The only thing we're going to get is more playoff matchups featuring Big Ten and SEC opponents. And I don't even know if you give an automatic bid to the Pac-12 anymore. That's not even a legitimate Power 5 conference anymore. That's a G5 conference. If we look at the Pac-12 for what they're going to be in 2024, I don't even think they're better than the American, honestly. So, I really got a hard time understanding the mindset about how expanding the college football playoffs creates more parity. It creates more potential opportunities. And, it creates more opportunities for schools who, like Penn State, haven't been to the college football playoffs because they can't get over the hump. Over teams like Michigan and Ohio State. Is going to make the road easier for your Tennessees and your Texas A&Ms of the world. And yes, with more teams having the opportunity to make the college football playoffs, it does help them in recruiting, because then some recruits, if they commit to the school because they want a chance to compete for championships, they look at Alabama and think that's their only route. With the expanded college football playoffs, you got more options to pick from. You got more teams that can give you that opportunity to go ahead and win a ring. But the teams that are still going to get the best players are going to be the teams that do the better job at developing players and getting them to the NFL, and the teams that just have a better overall track record of success. You see, there's a reason why Nick Saban is the greatest coach in college football history. There's a reason why Kirby Smart is the best coach in college football at this moment, because they put the time, work, and effort in. They didn't take any shortcuts. Now college football wants to give other programs shortcuts because they can't get their act right, and they can't, get up to the level of Alabama and Georgia other than getting handouts, getting benefits. Alabama and Georgia didn't need benefits. Ohio State and Michigan didn't need handouts, which is why they're going to continue to thrive and why they're going to dominate when the college football playoffs gets expanded. It's a difference when you earn something, because when you earn something, that shows that you've proven something about yourself. There's something that stands out about you that puts you in a position to be in the 14 college football playoffs. It's an exclusive club. Not everybody can make it into the playoffs. The best teams get into the playoffs. And regardless of how we go about putting the best teams in, it may be highly controversial, but the best teams still win more times than not. Do they not, or do they not? Cincinnati didn't upset Alabama. They got kind of pasted. And this is a Cincinnati team that had a lot of players off that squad who are now in the NFL performing at a really high level, i.e. Sauce Gardner. Desmond Ridder is the starting QB for the Atlanta Falcons. And they still weren't able to give Alabama a competitive game. You people want to see more parity in college football, but you're letting your feelings and your wishes cloud the actual reality. And what the actual reality of this is going to be is that you just made it easier for the SEC to get more bias into the college football playoffs. You guys get mad because the committee is so biased towards the SEC and the Big Ten. But yeah, you think that the college football playoffs, expanding to 12 teams, is going to create more parity when it's just going to make it even more simpler for them to get in? Like, that mindset makes no sense. How is that going to create more parity? How? More SEC teams are going to have a crack at getting in, and the Big Ten. And even with the auto bids, who are going to be the at-large bids who get in, who don't win their conferences? The teams that weren't able to get into the conference championship because they had an upset loss, or a team that wasn't able to get into the top 4 because they had an upset loss. So now, instead of making it more complicated, because it's more complicated to get into the college football playoffs with it staying at 4 teams with 1 loss or 2 losses, than it will be with having 12 teams. So it's like, you want to create more parity, but you think expanding the college football playoffs is the best way to do that, giving more conferences opportunities to get different teams in. But yeah, you're not thinking about the fact that you're making it more easier for SEC and Big Ten schools to get in, but yet you complain about the ESPN SEC bias. But you think that the SEC bias is magically going to go away because there's more teams? You don't think that with your mindset of the SEC bias that they aren't going to put more SEC teams in?
Come on now, dog. Come on, man.
I'm just saying. You guys can call me a hater all you want to, but I think I'm being pretty fair and being pretty factual about this. I think that Nick Saban, Alabama, and Kirby Smart, and even Dabo Swinney, what people kind of think is a declining program in a sense. You think that Clemson's falling off. Now the 12-team college football playoffs, you're making it easier for them to get back into it. Crazy. If we would have kept it at 4 teams, I wonder if Clemson would ever get back to the college football playoffs. But now with it being at 12 teams, there's a great chance that they get back into it. You see what y'all done? You see what has happened? You see the problem with this mindset that the college football playoffs is going to create more parity? The only thing you're really doing is ensuring that the best teams in college football have a easier way to get into the playoffs. The best teams are going to win games. I know that the best team doesn't always win, but they win the majority of the times.